So I might kick off with you, James, actually, on this one. I know you feel very strongly about all these topics today. Is it the parents' fault, responsibility? Are they to blame if they have an overweight child?
100%. And I don't care what any of you say. For me, it's solely the parents' fault. They are the ones that when they come home from school that are in charge what they eat, their portion sizes. And listen, we're in a day and age where it's not rocket science. It's pretty much like what is 2 + 2. We understand that if you put too much in there and don't move, you're going to put on weight. That's the same for everybody, no matter what you do for a living. People often say to me, oh, it's easy for you because you're a dancer. I wasn't born a dancer. Biologically, I'm exactly the same as every other human being. I think the problem is, yes, it's definitely the parents' fault, but we should educate the children at school as well, so they understand. So they go home to their parents that are giving them pizzas and sweets and chocolates and things like that, and not getting them outside exercising. But at the moment, I believe it's solely the parents' fault.
All right, is it that cut and dry, Paula?
No, it isn't. And I do have to disagree with James on that. And of course, if it was that simple, Vanessa, then we wouldn't have $1 billion diet industry, would we? It's a lot more complex than that. It's not simply just about putting food in your mouth or not putting food in your mouth. We know that, in fact, the psychology and the biology has a big part to play in terms of our child's weight. And I accept that there's a big problem. We are told that 1 in 5 children will leave primary school obese. So clearly there's a problem. But in terms of the food lobby and politically, do we really know what's going in our foods? Do we really understand
I don't know whether, Paula, you're just
food?
making this complicated. You know, it is the parents in general who feed the children. So it's the parents who make the choice. Now, you could say that it's very expensive to feed children a kind of high-protein diet. So if you're doing lean meat, grilled fish, you know, it's more expensive than if you're buying a pizza, also more time-consuming if you do that. But it's not really much more complicated than that, is it?
Well, then, if we look at what happens in the household, I certainly know what happens in my household. You know, if I'm working 2 jobs, if I don't see my husband for 4 or 5 days, and if it's easier for me to grab the chicken nuggets out the freezer, then that's the option for many parents to have. And so when we talk about it being the parents' fault...
But then it's portion sizes, because you can't put on weight unless you're consuming too many calories. And that's a scientific fact. So, OK, you could be giving them chicken nuggets, but it's not just from the chicken nuggets, it's from everything else, all the sweets. Everything has calories. So if the parents understand that the child should consume a certain amount of calories per day, you can still give them the chicken nuggets. That's not going to make them put on weight. I still take my daughter to McDonald's and things like that. You know, it's about having a balanced diet. But if they're consuming too many calories and not moving enough, they're going to put on weight. And it is that simple. It really is that simple.
Let's bring Dani into this. You've got 2 children, a girl and a boy. Are you kind of carefully monitoring the calories in and calories out? Are you thinking they're so active, they're burning off whatever they eat? Anyway, maybe you have to persuade them to eat. I don't know what's going on with yours.
Yeah, I have to say, I will let my children be children, for sure. And I do make sure they have a balanced diet. But yes, at the end of the day, it is my responsibility what I'm putting in their mouths, absolutely. But I do think that supermarkets could definitely help us out a little bit. I never ever go in there and see bananas on offer. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Because it's really expensive at the minute. And chocolate bars are always on offer. You can always get like 3 for $4. And there's always these great deals on, but never on the healthy food. So I definitely think that they could really help parents out.
The other thing is that I've talked about this on lots of different programmes before, and sometimes I get calls from parents who say, now, hang on a minute. You know, yes, it is our responsibility what we put in our children's mouths, but I've got 3 kids, 2 of them are skinny as twigs, incredibly active, very sporty, and one of my children, you know, is just that little sweet little one that's there hoovering up the birthday cake at parties and, you know, finishing off the sausage rolls and looking around for a jam sandwich. And they're all 3 of my kids. They've all got the same genes. I brought them up in exactly the same way. I'm offering them all the same food. This is not fair. How can it be my fault if I've got 3 children, 1 of whom is most definitely overweight and 2 of whom are probably underweight?
But you're still letting them run around and eat everybody's cakes off the plate, so you've got to kind of stop that, haven't you? You've got to monitor it. And I understand children have to be children, and my child still has chocolate, but it's about If you've got a child that's overweight, you've got to monitor it because you're putting them at so many health risks, not only now, but also for their future. And it's been proved that children that are overweight or obese when they're younger, they carry that on into adulthood. And diabetes, strain on the heart, breathing problems, you might as well let them smoke and drink.
I suppose one of my concerns, though, about what the NHS are planning on doing, on putting the scales in the bathroom of a 7-year-old or 8-year-old.
I think I agree.
That is, for me, it's not about the weight, it's about the healthy diet, the healthier. You know, I speak to my kids about being healthy. I know of 2 adult men who have had heart bypasses who on the outside look very healthy, but on the inside are very unhealthy. That visceral fat that we hear about sometimes. And so there's no point in me saying to my children, oh, get on the scales, get on the scales. Actually, it's about, OK, what fruit have you had today? What vegetables are we going to incorporate into the meal today? That's my concern about what the NHS is saying. The scales is really making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that should be taught at school as well, so the children as well are aware what is healthy to eat and what is unhealthy.
The thing is, though, people talk about education as far as weight is concerned all the time, and I don't believe a single person watching us now doesn't know that the healthier choice would be an apple over a bar of chocolate, that the healthier choice would be vegetables and chicken.
Fish.
I think everybody knows, including me, and yet for a large proportion of my life, it wasn't that I didn't understand, I perfectly knew, but did I want the celery? Was that calling to me from the fridge, Vanessa, come and eat me, I'm delicious celery? Or did I want the flipping cake and the chocolate mousse and the pie, which said, Vanessa, you love me, come and get me my darling, and I'd come and get it. You know, so it's not that people don't know. There is definitely an emotional call for, sweet foods and comforting foods and all that sort of thing. And I'm just thinking of these children who are told, look, here are the scales in your bathroom. You're eating too much of the wrong thing. And I remember what that makes you really desperate to do is eat more of that thing.
Yeah, I actually feel sorry for the children.
So do I.
Yeah,
But I also feel sorry for the parents because I think, my God, how are you meant to navigate
I don't feel sorry for the parents at all.
Yeah, but this is where we disagree and where I do have sympathy for the parents.
I want to just bring a caller in. Let's talk to Nikki. Nikki's on the line in Cheshire. You can see her down that camera there. Hi, Nikki. Thanks for calling. What do you reckon about this?
Hi. Well, I think we need to change the language here.
Right.
Because instead of saying that parents are at fault, what we have to say is parents have a responsibility to keep their children healthy. And there's no good suddenly, if you allow your child to be overweight and then trying to do something about it. This should be addressed from day one. And unfortunately, we don't have the health visitors who would be going into the homes after babies are born. We don't have the school nurses. I'm a retired primary school head teacher. We used to have a school nurse that came in who would ring an alarm bell. They used to come in and weigh and measure the children just as a matter of course.
I remember that.
And then they would go into the home if there was an issue with a child being overweight. I have to say, I'm quite convinced that most primary schools now do not allow children to take sweets and chocolate in. And I'm absolutely certain that they don't. I do know a number of my own daughter's a primary school head teacher, and I've got close friends who are working in schools, and that they don't allow those things to be going into school.
But Nikki, may I ask you something? In the old days, when you used to have the school nurse and when the nurse would weigh and, as you put it so nicely, raise the alarm, what would happen then? Would you call the parents in and ask them what they were feeding the children, or how would it all work?
The nurse would go into the home. The same thing used to happen if when the head life nurse came in. It was the nurse who came into school, and then the nurse went into the home to check. They would say, right, your child is overweight, this is what your child is weighing, and this is what you now need to do.
Right.
We also don't want it to become a nanny state, though, do we? Where
excuse me, we used to... No, that's not being a nanny state. That is giving help to people who don't know what to do.
Don't know what to do. It's not rocket science. You just put less in your mouth and move more.
No. It might not be rocket science for you, but it may be rocket science for the parents who are allowing this to happen. Yeah. A lot of our parents, you know, if they've not got parents themselves who are going to be helping them to, you know, make sure that what they're doing with their grandchildren is the right thing to do. You cannot just, if you start, you call it you know, sort of a blame society. So you're doing this, you're wrong. What do you do about it? That does not help these children. At the end of the day, you put the children first.
100%. And I feel sorry for the children, but I still believe that it's solely down to the parents. If you drive a car and your car's dirty, whose responsibility is it to clean the car? It's your responsibility to go and get... If you've got children, it's your responsibility to make sure you do the right thing for your children. Why would you want to put your child at risk with all these health issues because you're putting rubbish that you know is rubbish into their bodies?
All right, Nikki, thank you so much. Let's go to Sandra. She's in Suffolk. Sandra, what do you see parents doing right now? Thanks so much for ringing. Hi.
Well, there are two issues. I'm 86, and so I'm a war baby. And the food was rationed, so we didn't have the availability of all the convenience foods. Mum stayed at home. They cooked from scratch. And I really feel that James is entirely right, that it's the amount of calories you put in your mouth and the exercise you take.
Sandra, I've got to stop you there because we've got to go to a break. James looks absolutely cockaboo.
I'm always right. I told you this
totally
before,
right,
didn't I,
which
Vanessa?
is what he always knows.